Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the call this evening.
Hello,
Can you all hear me? Fine.
we can hear you.
Wonderful. 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 Yeah. Mynoo's getting all set up here, and we're going to start in a minute. So welcome. Let's see. All right. Hello, Lonnie and Mary, Sarah, Raj.
You're just getting online.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Okay, so I'm really excited about today. Mynoo's going to be sharing with us the human miracle within the 12 building blocks. And it's number 7 of 52. And we're going to talk about our mental well-being and the 7 deadly sins and how to redeem them. So what Mynoo's going to do today is she's going to share 7 deadly sins that destroy our mental well-being. She's also going to unveil the ways in which we can redeem these deadly sins. So we're going to learn how you can access if you're trapped in one of the seductions of these, one or several of these sins, what you can do to free yourself from its grip and walk the path of redemption. So how would you like to just free all that mental clutter and stuff that holds you back? So that's what we're going to get in today. And it feels really empowering right now for this discussion. I think it's just so timely and I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are too. It's going to be good. All right, I'm just going to let a few more people in here and Mynoo is going to get started. It's also an interactive. So if any of you have any questions at all, please just feel free to put them in the chat and let me know. And then I will ask Mynoo those questions. So yeah. All right, Mynoo. Would you like me to reintroduce you or are we good?
Oh, good. I was listening to everything you were saying as I was getting us live on Facebook. So
Okay.
I too am very excited about this one. Very powerful session and where lots of learning for me. So looking forward to sharing it. And Dea, as you know, this is your like an archetype representation of, all of humanity. And everyone that's here represents them in one way, one form or another. So be vigilant and alert to any questions arising in you. And, you can raise your hand like this and I will bring you in at the appropriate time for us to have a dialogue about it. Okay, so thank you so much for hosting.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Always.
I also want to thank everyone who was here for our Beyond Meditation last night. I spoke about a friend of mine who slipped and flung herself across a whole flight of stairs and was in a lot of pain. And we did a beautiful healing meditation for her and for many others who we put into the center of our healing circle. And this morning, as I was here online and Dea was coming online, I hear these steps coming down the stairs. And I'm like, this sounds like her. And there she was, coming down 2 flights of stairs saying, wow, this is a miracle.
Yeah. She looked great when I saw her.
I know. And literally, when she slipped, she's somersaulted, hitting one side of the wall, hitting another side of the wall, and then just coming down, crashing. And she's 73 years old. So very grateful for the work that we all did together. And it is truly the human miracle, So thank you, everyone. Let's begin our session. Mental well-being, the 7 deadly sins and how to redeem them. Words are powerful. So I always like to really go into let's really get to what does it actually mean to, what does a sin mean? What does redemption mean? And, what does redeeming yourself from a sin actually mean? Because that is what we are talking about here in the context of mental well-being. So sin is, just dictionary definition is, it's like an immoral act, an immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. That's what it is, an immoral act. In the context of mental well-being, these sins that I'm talking about, and I'm talking about them as deadly sins here, that's what I'm guided to do. It's an immoral act that is a transgression against the divine or the divinity within us. The divine law expresses itself through each of us. And how does it express itself through each of us? By actually embodying itself within us in this human form. And that is the invocation of the divine from the time that we bring in conscious awareness to our breath. The divine, the divinity within us starts to express itself through our human form. So the divine law is what we actually operate from. Whether we realize it or not, whether we like it or not, this is the way it is. So a sin is an immoral act. That's a transgression against a divine law. It is something that is contradictory to what comes naturally to us, which is the presence of the divine in us, an expression of divinity through us. Redemption. Redemption is an act of atoning for a fault or a mistake. It's sort of like a deliverance or a rescue, if you like. Redeem from a sin in itself is like buyback, repurchase in the context of share or stock market. And redemption from a sin is to free from what distresses or harms us. So what we're talking about here is illuminating our understanding of the 7 deadly sins that transgress us against the divine law, that are immoral acts that we may do unto ourselves, that we can redeem and be free from the distresses that they cause us. That's what we are talking about here in the context of mental well-being. So with that context having been established, let's look at the first one. I mean, there's something else that they use, when they say redeeming from a sin, from in the context of a religious text, it's really about restoration of man from the bondage of a sin. And this restoration of man from the bondage of sin to really experience liberty. And liberty through a deep sense of fulfillment and satisfaction, thereby unleashing us to continue to express the merits of the divine within us. With that having been said, let's look at the first one, the first deadly sin and how we redeem them. The first one is muddling up mental and emotional. And its redemption is to maintain the boundaries, remove the blur. So you've heard me, this is a part of the Human Miracle 12 Building Blocks series. And there, one of the first sessions that we did was all about full spectrum well-being, where we are firing and thriving on all cylinders, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. So mental and emotional are very distinct cylinders. And they often get muddled up. And when they get muddled up, it's like two really big stalwarts of our well-being come together as one. It makes it much harder for us to start firing on the other cylinders. And that muddle literally creates a situation where we dig our heels in the mud and we're not able to step out of it. We're not able to break free from it. And we've all experienced sometime or the other situations in our life where we seem to be just get stuck in them. We can't seem to get out of it. And that's this muddling up of mental and emotional. So let's recap on what is the difference between mental and emotional. Mental well-being is about our thoughts, our thinking, our mindset. Emotional, on the other hand, is to do with our feeling. So our thoughts are constantly generated. We are generating them. They are created by us. And, whatever we think a lot become our beliefs. And we'll be talking more about that as we progress. Emotions are a consequence. And we can take on very conscious ways of creating emotions that are uplifting by choosing the vibrations that we wish to emanate from us. And the redemption is to remove the blur. So once you understand the redemption is to remove the blur, and you realize that actually this lack of mental well-being is starting to occur because of all of this muddling up, then all I have to do is to separate what are my thoughts from what am I actually feeling. And when you start separating out your thoughts, what I found was the stuff that we think is not even real. It's hilarious sometimes. Right? And the best part is it's self-generated. But because it gets muddled up with our emotions, then it becomes so personal to us. And if somebody else presents a different thought or a different point of view, it becomes really personal because we've muddled up emotions and emotional and mental well-being altogether. So, there was a particular point in time where I was uncovering this body of work I call Living from Source. And I know there are several of you who've done the journey to miracles. So you experienced uncovering your default intention, which I now call as the autopilot. And you also experience the journey of unveiling who you are in your source mastery. And as a part of toning the source mastery muscle, I ask you all to interview people. So when I uncovered it for myself, I embarked on this journey of interviewing. And I interviewed my ex-mother-in-law. At that point, she was my mother-in-law. And she was a very challenging one for me to interview because I was asking her, please share with me your opinions about my strengths, my weaknesses, and who am I to you? And she begins with my strength, and she only said, you're a good driver was my strength. I didn't even like driving, And I was like, seriously? And I asked her, is there anything else? She says, no, nothing else. Now, at this point, my source muscle was being toned because it was hurting. That I'd spent 9 years with her. Each year we had met at least 2, or sometimes even 3 times for, minimum of a week at a time. And the only strength she could see was that I was a good driver. Now, all that happened was, she said one strength, you're a good driver. And emotionally, I made it mean that she just doesn't think I'm worth no, mentally I made it mean she doesn't think I'm worth it. And emotionally, it made me feel small, constricted, restricted, unable to express myself. Now, in the Source Mastery interview, you actually separate the mental and emotional, you know, and then when I asked her my weaknesses, that was the muddling up. That's when the muddling up began. And I was going deeper and deeper into this deadly sin. Because she just began, when he says, you really didn't want to be a mother, did you? Began like that, says that we love Sai when he comes to us, but it takes me 7 days to get him to be this proper little boy. And then I come here and he's the same, running around everywhere, having an opinion about everything. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. And I'm like, every mental thought, there was only one mental thought, that she just does not value anything that I do or say. And I was going deeper and deeper and deeper into this deadly sin. Mental well-being was seriously being destroyed by the meaning I was giving to every word almost. It began with meaning to every sentence, and then it became meaning to every word, and then it became meaning to every expression that she had as she was expressing those words. And it was that feeling, like literally it stopped me in my tracks until I came back to the mental well-being. And I said, my mastery is I have the ability to leave people truly, madly, deeply in love with themselves. And I choose to do that. And I started thinking that. And I thought that with every word that made me blur the boundaries. Every time I felt the boundaries blurred, I would go, Katie is going to be left truly, madly, deeply in love with herself. Not speak up. I did not argue with her. There was so much misunderstanding, so much misinterpretation, so many mental thoughts that I also had coming up where, if only, it's like, oh, poor Phil, you brought him up like this with all this pressure. You're a mean mom. All those things were also going on in my head. And I would keep coming back to whatever that is, I still am going to leave her truly, madly, deeply in love with herself. I was not superwoman. I was not superhuman. I had to work hard at it to make that happen. And lo and behold, something shifted for her. And that day, and I went up after our 45 minutes that we had together. It was the longest ever 45 minutes I have spent on anything, even to this day. It was like a workout like none other. Circuit training of mental well-being. And when Phil came back that evening, he was very curious what had happened, were there explosions and stuff? And she was all dressed up, ready to receive him. And she says, I want to do that course that Mynoo is doing. Because I've never had such a conversation with anyone. And for me, it was like that wasn't a conversation. She was speaking all the time, very commanding and controlled way. Again, I gave that meaning. She was just answering my questions. I gave that meaning, that she's commanding and controlling. And the fact that she says, I want to do that course that Mynoo is doing, I've never had such a conversation with anyone. She felt that I connected with her in some way. She felt received. She felt she belonged in that conversation. And it was amazing. At that point, I didn't have a course. I was just developing this body of work that I've been sharing now for, a couple of decades. So there wasn't a course we could send her to. We did get her to do the landmark forum. She was 82 years old at the time. And it is not a trivial course. It's quite a massive commitment, begins at 10 a.m., can finish at 10, 11 at night. And she did it all. When I went on the family and friends night, I was like the superstar arriving, because she just talked so glowingly about her daughter-in-law. And that came from me consciously choosing the redemption, which was removing the blur of the boundaries between thought and emotions. The second sin, deadly sin. And notice, I'm talking about deadly, I'm not just talking about a sin. So these are serious. They really take you off your mental well-being. And you may be perfectly fine physically, but mentally, if you are extremely ill, it destroys all other cylinders. You just can't find joy. So the second deadly sin is overthinking. Overthinking. And the redemption is getting real. Like not thinking at all. Only acknowledging. So what happens, overthinking is, like one thing leads to another, and you're just allowing your thoughts to multiply. That's what thoughts do. They automatically multiply. And they automatically multiply if you allow the thoughts to just run. It's a little bit like you're sitting on a carriage, which is led by, 2 or 4 horses, and you just simply allow them to go without holding the reins and recognizing that you are the charioteer that is taking your chariot to wherever it is that you intend for it to go. And the moment you allow that, those, the mental thoughts to just run with it, they take you where they take you. The thought is a thought. It doesn't have an intention. It doesn't have anything. It's just something that is generated, and it is often self-generated. And it is self-generated, and very often it is linked to a meaning that you've given to what's occurred. A thought is a thought. An observation is not a thought. When you observe, you actually iterate the fact of what has occurred. But when you are thinking something, it's not related to necessarily a description of what's occurred. It's whatever it is that you have interpreted from what has occurred. It's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. If we don't rein it in, then we do not fulfill our intention. We start falling apart. That's what occurs. And that is what leads to overthinking. And just give me a moment. The women out there in the living room are so excited about what has occurred as a miracle in terms of the healing my friend Vandhu has experienced, that they are talking with great excitement and enthusiasm. So I'm just going to shut the door so that we can be fully present here together. So just give me a moment. Now, very easily, I could have given it some thoughts that they know that I'm doing this session, and why can't they just go upstairs and carry on talking in their excitement. They just, and then I would give it, my emotions would arise, like, they're just not respectful. And I'm feeling, lack of respect. Well, I didn't. I just observed that that's what's going on, and I'm going to be fully present here. So I took action. See, when you understand and you really, if you remove the blur and you maintain the boundaries and that separation between mental and emotional, you're able to enjoy thinking without it becoming your reality. You know, these are your thoughts. And you can remain stationed in what's real. So the redemption's already very present. Now you can think and you can discern, and you don't get consumed by it. You don't disconnect from reality. So I remember when and many of you read the B book, have probably experienced, have read that, which is, I talk about, when I first connected to everything that was going on, my first visit to Bali, and those magical 3 weeks that transformed the rest of my life. I come back and I'm like sharing with my mother over the phone all these downloads, I call them, that I was getting, that I was writing. And they were profound words of wisdom, which I never thought I had. I never even related to them as being my words. But they were coming through me because it was an automatic expression of what was coming through. And I was just typing it on my notes, on my phone. And as I'm talking to her, my mother says, it's like your inner divine is communicating this. So why don't we use this moment to anchor what it is that you wish to accomplish in this lifetime? So if you could ask for one thing as your blessing, and as your blessing, your desire, your wish from God, what would that be? And I said, I would desire, and I said, Jite Ji Samadhi, which is like a state of enlightenment whilst living my life. And my mother said, many of our saints desired that. And it's a huge ask. You're going to have to live like an observer. And I immediately went back to her and I said, I don't want to do that. That's so boring. I want to actually live my life. I want to be engaged in life. And she said, being an observer is the most engaged form of living your life. At that point, I didn't know what she was on about because I just thought, oh, whatever. But actually, what I'm talking about here, when you get real, you're stationed in observing what's so. In that anchor, being anchored and stationed in observing what's so, you actually can really enjoy the gift and the power of your mental faculties. And think, analyze, discern, decipher, surmise, summarize. Don't get consumed. You will not get consumed by overthinking, because overthinking is simply a spin. It's a deadly sin of mental well-being. You can redeem it at any point in time by just simply saying, zip it, what's real? And you can simply start by observing what you see. I'm sitting here in front of the computer, or I'm listening to Facebook Live. I'm jotting down some points. And I like the color of the outfit I'm wearing. Whatever. Doesn't matter that it feels like so trivial. Doesn't matter. Get real. The moment you get real, you've broken that pattern of overthinking. And you start to, the more you expand your repertoire of observations of what's real, the more powerful your abilities become in utilizing your thoughts to empower you in the reality that you are living day by day, moment by moment. Now, my mother said this, you're going to have to live your life like an observer. And where did I go? I immediately had an emotional reaction to it. Boundaries were blurred. Where I go, that's really boring. Well, I mean, the fact was she just shared something. And I could have simply taken that and said, oh, okay, I'll explore it, remaining stationed in my reality. However, I did get back to it because I started observing. And then, I mean, many of you have now been with me from my before time all the way until now. And you have seen the power and of observation and how engaged I am in living my life moment to moment. This whole philosophy of expecting and accepting miracles as the norm couldn't have occurred if I wasn't an observer. Recognizing that a miracle is where something beautiful occurs and makes your heart sing. And then just stepping into the reality of what is making my heart sing. Yes, it's real. My heart is beating. And that beat of the heart is the music, is its song. So clearly there is something there. Now that was simply a thought. If my heart is beating, that is a song of the heart. There's something beautiful occurring that's making it sing. No emotions there, but it was a thought, a powerful thought that I chose to just take on and live my life in the reality of being an observer. And in the observation of what's making my heart sing, I allowed my emotions to flow. And my vibration started becoming uplifted. And I started experiencing self-liberation, and I got unleashed. You see, like really mental well-being, the redemption is a redemption. Sin and redemption actually go together. They're two sides of the same coin. It's up to us to
Mynoo,
observe. Yes.
Mynoo, I had something to say, like the second deadly sin of overthinking. I called it a deadly spin.
Yeah.
Deadly spin, it's how it feels, right? When your mind's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a deadly spin because you don't feel it. It's controlling you, and hence, and it is a deadly spin because it is a deadly sin. Now you can redeem it by simply saying, okay, what's real? I'm breathing. Okay, that's real. Even if you just break that pattern, and where I'm going with this, with mental well-being, because thoughts are generated by you. Nobody else generates your thoughts. Nobody does. Nobody does. Your reactions to those thoughts are also generated by you. What you choose to feel from those thoughts is also your creation. Your experiences of life are a consequence of that. So you can take action. The power is in you to redeem by simply getting real. And you can all of us, however upset, depressed, or wherever people may be, they can snap out of it by just choosing one thing that they see as reality. There's be blue on Dea. Dea is wearing blue. That's just a real statement. It feels, it's charming. Okay, that's a little bit of meaning gone into it, some thought gone into it, mental. And it actually is invigorating. Now I brought emotions in. Very distinct and separate, and then powerfully empowering each other, all the while stationed in reality. So even if you find anyone in a deadly spin, which can happen there in the work that you do, right? There's a lot of emotions are running high, social dynamics are destroyed. Just bring them back to reality.
Spin.
Yeah, and that's when no decisions get made. It's just attack, defense. It's war zone.
Yeah, and I think we can also have that spin in our own minds, not even having to be with somebody else, right?
Absolutely, totally. Often overthinking is a sin that we commit within ourselves. We end up overthinking. someone did something, and then we make it mean something, and then we make the meaning mean something more, and then we make the meaning we made meaning of mean even more, and then it just starts to self-generate. That's the deadly spin. But we can interrupt.
Yeah.
The third deadly sin is actually very much about what we've been talking about, diving deep into meaning. And redemption is return to facts. So, everyone has this. Everyone, we are a meaning-making machine. And I often hear sometimes people saying, I am a meaning-making machine. Let's, first of all, drop that identity about you being this meaning-making machine. We just indulge in it. I didn't know I indulged in it. I just thought it was quite natural, And then until I understood what it does, then I realized that actually meaning sometimes just happens automatically. He ignored me. No words were uttered, but just somebody went past who you knew and he ignored me. It's a meaning I made it mean. And now I can let my thoughts run berserk and say, well, last time you did the same thing. And this other person also talked about how he goes around ignoring people. Well, I really don't like these people that just have no respect for others. Still thoughts. It doesn't make me feel good. Now I'm getting into emotions. All boundaries are blurred up. We are just into meaning. All that happened is this person I knew walked past. That's it. I could just pick up the phone and say, hey, I just saw you. You walked past. How are things? You just came back into my conscious awareness. It's literally as simple as that. Return to facts. Facts, the moment you return to facts as facts, there is no emotion attached to them. You can engage in thoughts and thinking about them, but because there's no emotion attached to them, you can actually take appropriate action or just simply enjoy the observation. Now, what I did here is, this is a habit that we have. And it is such a habit that we have practiced so much. And those of you here who've done the journey into miracles, in autopilot, operating from the autopilot saboteur, which is your default intention, is operating in this realm of deep meaning and really toning your meaning-making machine. And that the moment you give in to powering up your meaning-making machine state of being, you start getting disconnected from reality. You actually enter the realm of victimhood. And we are not a victim. We are not a victim. Each one of us has life in exactly the same way as another. It doesn't matter what strata of society you come from, what class you are, you have life. And life is a state in which you are breathing. Your environment and your social dynamics, all of that comes later. Your soul first connects to breath. There is no meaning in that realm. There really simply is all that is. Children are divine. Well, because they are actually plugged into what's real. So diving deep into meaning is the deadly sin. And so often, think about it, we have dialogues between people, that we have conversations with others where there is a whole exchange of meaning. There's like a meaning-making exchange. And that also is fine, right? As long as you're stationed in reality and you're able to reconnect and return to facts, you can go play the game of meaning and then observe the emotions that is generating. You'll be able to break free from the meaning, because sometimes when you are diving deep into meaning, the deadly spin that they are talked about, this whole muddling up of the boundaries, all of that occurs when it is a state that I call as a consumption state. You can choose whenever something occurs, you can choose to be creative, or you can choose to be in a state of consumption. Creation is what we are meant to be and do. After all, each one of us is the essence of the creator. But the moment we give meaning, it provides instant gratification. And that instant gratification is what gives it its superpower. And that state of consumption starts to consume us. The redemption from this is return to facts. The moment you return to facts, you can actually go and create from those facts that are present in front of you. So when I engaged with this particular part of mental well-being and looked at this deadly sin, I did like a lay of the land, looking back at my life. Some big moments that meant that things just went out of control, spun out of control. And I was just left flabbergasted. How did we go from where we were to where we are now? And I was observing this relationship between a brother and a sister. And it's a sister that I've been working with, and she's been a part of the journey into miracles for a long time. And they're very close. They really stand for each other. And there's great love that exists between them. And literally like a week later, I have this amazing conversation. She's so excited. She's meeting her brother after a whole year of being away, And then a week into her being with her brother and her sister-in-law and her niece, she's like, he is the worst person she has ever come across or met. He's mean, he's hurtful, he's soul-destroying, those kind of words. And he's like, just a control freak. He puts you in a box and locks you in and you can't get out of it. I'm like, wow. So I've come here for 3 weeks and it's 1 week and I'm so ill, my blood pressure. So you see, this is what happens when you deep dive into meaning, it's not real. So your body starts to scream and call out to you to be real by you experiencing physical discomfort. That starts to happen. And all that your body is doing is saying, come back to facts. So there I am talking to her and I say, okay, just tell me, what was the trigger that got all of this spinning out of control? And she came here for his birthday. And she arrived just after midnight. She'd planned it all. So she would ring the doorbell just after midnight. And it was a long flight that she had taken. And the only thing her brother could say is, oh, you're here. Okay, we'll talk tomorrow. I was just about to go into sleep. And her sister-in-law took her to the guest room. And then that was it. She goes into, he just doesn't care. I do so much for him. He just doesn't care. I don't matter to him. And then it started multiplying from there. And next day morning, I mean, his brother has got certain medical requirements. So there are various things that he has to do before he's able to really, come and interact with everyone. And she's like, he knows I came here last night and he's still not coming out of his bedroom. He's like, I'm just not going to let myself be hurt this way anymore. All he knows is to hurt people. He just causes so much pain. I know what his wife used to complain about. I now understand this is crazy. That was going on. And then when we returned to facts, I said, what actually happened? And he just said this. Well, he was surprised. He did come and open the door because when the doorbell rang, the housekeeper saw that it was you. The housekeeper actually went and woke him up because he should be the one opening the door to you because you've clearly come here to give him a surprise. And he did that. But he was in the middle of a deep sleep. That was just a fact. And then where does all of this come from? 1 week later, you feel like you're stuck and trapped in hell. She realized it was simply meaning after meaning after meaning, and then searching for evidence to support the meaning and giving more meaning with the evidence added to the meaning. Total disconnect from the facts. Once she got that, she broke her pattern. She went back and spoke to her brother. He shared with her a very specific situation that he's been having, a very, deep grip of insomnia. And as a result, he's following a particular regime and a practice that supports him and helps him. And then, of course, she goes into giving meaning to, oh my God, shame on me, I didn't even care to ask him how he was feeling. I just kept laboring into him. Look, I came all this way to celebrate your birthday. And she said he did actually attempt to talk to me about what he was experiencing the next day. And I kept saying, you don't even notice. You just don't care about people. You just know how to. She was like, oh my God. And then guilt comes in. And then she hears my voice in her head, return to facts. And it was a very beautiful transformation that took place. The good news is, yes, we are talking about the deadly sins of mental well-being, and you can see how they can become deadly sins of mental well-being. Any one of those cylinders, if you just allow yourself to enrich and invigorate yourself, that's what they do, and you start thriving on all cylinders. But you get sucked into the downer or the deadly sin, like here we are talking about mental well-being deadly sins, it stops you even surviving on all cylinders, and you simply get into a coping mechanism. Dea, do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, because if you're using all your energy on just coping, you can't be creative. You're just trying to survive instead of thrive, you're just surviving. And that's not really a lot of fun, actually. Yeah.
Especially in the work that you do, a lot of the time, this piece would be playing up quite a lot, diving deep into meaning. And that is what is starting to destroy relationships.
Yeah. And then they want to be right about their meaning. And, a lot of times, they have to just maybe stop and listen a little bit better, listen to the other person. And maybe they can see a different way through. So yes, it's a big one.
Actually, if you just support them to return back to the facts of where it originated from, you will see a completely different form of blossoming. Even if the relationship is to end, it will not end on this note of being gripped by meaning.
Right. At least they can maybe have an understanding of where each person is coming from, different perspectives. So it's a good thing. It's a healing of sorts.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fourth one is fait accompli, where something has just occurred, A fait accompli is where something has already happened and it's decided before you are able to fully consider it, and you feel as if you're left with no option but to accept it. The fourth deadly sin of mental well-being is this fait accompli. There is no point. No, there's no point in doing anything about this. You already made a decision, or completely based on all those meaning multiplier situations that have depleted your life force and energy, or destroyed a relationship. Just based on that, you've just decided it's not going to work. It's not going to work. The redemption is transforming your beliefs. So fait accompli, when you say that, there's no point here, it's not going to work. All it is you have converted some thought that might have occurred sometime in the past into a thought that you have thought a lot. And as a result, it's become a belief. And fait accompli is simply a belief. And a belief is simply a thought that you keep thinking, a thought that you think a lot. The redemption is think a different thought and think it a lot, and it becomes a new belief. It's literally as simple as that. When I did my lay of the land, there were certain relationships that just didn't feel comfortable. Even to this day, and okay, I'm in a different state, so I just only plug into their magnificence, and it's fine. But if I am to actually go into any form of collaboration, I mean, some of these people that I have in my mind, I don't see them as collaborators. And of course, and I will plug into their magnificence, but I won't choose them to be my collaborators. But that's just simply a fait accompli situation. And I just decided to think a different thought, which is we are born in this life to accomplish the expansion our soul desires. We have divinity within us, and it is a divine that guides us. We are divinely guided at every step, and everyone that ever comes into my life is a collaborator or a co-creator. And what type of collaboration, co-creation that's going to emerge from it will flow. I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to engage in thinking about it. I don't have to convince myself why someone is not a collaborator. Be with the flow, knowing that my time is never wasted and my interactions are always for a higher good. People come into my life to propel that, such that it holographically expands and touches the lives of 8 billion people. I just chose to think that thought a lot. It transformed everything. Fait accompli is a word that does not exist in my dictionary anymore. It doesn't have to exist in yours. The fifth one is uncommitted complaining. And the redemption is just drop the racket. Complaining, persistent complaints. If you're complaining about the same thing again and again, it may be about the same thing, the same person, the same complaint again and again. First of all, complaining about it is just like venting something. Doesn't actually do anything. Doesn't take the complaint away. So first of all, if there is a complaint you have about someone, complain to them and to someone who can do something about it. But if you just indulge in uncommitted complaining simply is you're not committed to resolving the complaint. You're just committed to venting. So you're not committed. So it's an uncommitted complaining is the deadly sin. And that keeps you multiplying that which you're complaining about. Understand that it's a racket that you've created, and it's a game that you are playing, and it could be a game that gives you justification, gives you domination, but it has a cost of really taking away love, taking away your vitality, depleting you of the most essential resources. Just drop the diet, drop the racket. The sixth one, I mean, these are so powerful, this series, The Human Miracle, that each one of these, I get like so deep into it that I just realize usually 10 minutes to go that I still have 4 others to go through. So the sixth one is the deadly sin to mental well-being is listening through filters. We create filters. Filters are only meanings. And a filter would be, if I was to say, I'm Mynoo Maryel, I'm a politician, you start listening to me from your filter of a politician. Doesn't matter whether it's good or bad or whatever, it's a filter. You actually are not present to me, and you absolutely are not present to the words that are coming through, and you totally are disconnected from what it is that I am choosing to express, bringing together a particular combination of words, because you're listening to me through your filter of a politician. The redemption is listen like you are listening to the most magnificent being you could possibly meet in this lifetime. Because we are that. Each one is that. So what do you do if you just simply transform that and start listening to everyone, each one that comes into your life, like they are the most magnificent being you could ever meet in your life. And there you are with them. See what emerges. You transform performance. You transform behaviors. And in doing so, you transform and uplift your own presence. You get connected to who you truly are. This is the one that actually delivers you anchored in a state of dignity, owning your own worthiness. And from that space, all you can do is honor everyone in theirs. Listen to everyone as if they are the most magnificent being you could ever meet in your life. That's redemption. And the seventh one is acting, blaming, no choice. Redemption is choose the consequence before any action. So sometimes we just rush into an action and, or we just say stuff like, I had no choice. I just had to act. I had to do something. But the moment you hear yourself saying, I had no choice, you're actually engaged in the blame game. You are blaming someone, you're blaming an environment, you're blaming. You're not playing the game of living your life. You're engaged in action. So the busyness is there, but you're not getting anywhere because all you're doing is acting out the blame game. The redemption is before you know that you are always choosing. Even if you choose to make no choice, you are choosing that. Even if you choose to give your choice to someone else or something else or the environment or whatever it might be, you are choosing that. So before you go into action, understand the consequence of this choice and choose the consequence instead and declare your choice of consequence. Then take action. You will transform how you choose. Mental well-being will become your reality that regenerates and thrives. And you literally start thriving on all cylinders. Over to you, Dea.
Wow. That was loaded, Mynoo. That was amazing. All of them, just freeing our minds and clearing that space so that we can be super creative and empowered and connected and present all these things. Gosh, I'm gonna just touch on a couple of them. Just clearing any blur, when we muddle that mental and emotional state together. And when we overthink, we just start to do that deadly spin, and how we can just get out of that, and reclaim ourselves. The third one, I think, is diving deep into the meaning, like just making things up and then returning to the facts to keep it simple. And the fourth one, that word I feta complete. That one's so disempowering. I don't want to hear about that one. So that's when something's already decided for you. So you're not going to be doing that anymore, right? And the uncommitted complaining, on and complaining, just a racket that we need to drop. And also really listening without filters. So we're very present to what is right there. And then the last one is it's just always knowing you have a choice. So with all of those things, I'm going to have to listen to this one again. Mynoo, thank you so much. That was so good. I mean, it just keeps getting better. Your transmissions are so powerful. Thank you. I think we all got a lot out of that one.
Yes, there's something here for everyone. The main thing is implementation is where the real juice is.
Yeah.
The superfood is going to emerge from your implementation of this work.
And we just practice. The more we practice and the more conscious we are about it, the easier it flows. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Namaste. Have a great rest of the evening and great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.